aging. And if we have time, we will wrap up with the whole idea. Okay, so the outline for today, the first part will be on human competences and dignity aging as a key strategy for the first and demographic dividend in the 21st century. And in the last part of the session, we to sum up with key messages that by expanding from national and regional markets, it is possible to take advantage of different stages of the demographic transition that countries find themselves in. So this is to see the connection between the intimate and the public sphere. Okay. Let's start with this one. When we talk about human competences and dignity aging, we cannot ignore what would be the future trend of be going on, okay, in the world. I rely on what Peter Drucker said in his book. He identified several trends. Among others, he highlighted the developing world, which he said that there are certain dominating factors in the next society in the developing world that we should pay attention to. One is the rapid growth in the older population. Another is the rapid decrease in younger population. Peter Drucker talked about the developing countries. But if you think of Japan, which is a developed country, this trend also taking place in Japan, right? The rapid growth in the older population and decrease in younger population. Do you know how many child population, those below 15, in Japan now? How many of them? Can you guess? Studies said Japan has the lowest population, 15 below. How many of them there are in Japan right now? 10 million, 20 million, or what? Hmm? 15? Close, that is very close. It's 17.14 million. And what about the aging people? Those in Japan, you consider the population, the aging people, 65 and above, right? How many of them by this month, May 2009, how many of them? Growing. 20s or 30s or what? Million? 20 million, 30 million or what? This is in the Kyoto news. When it was the Children's Day, right? Can you guess? It's 22.5 million. So this is something that you will see more and more older population would increase, right? But in developing countries, we are thinking that the growing size of the proportion of the older population would make the traditional pattern of full-time office hours change to more temporary and part-time work. I don't know if this is the case in Japan now. But in developing countries, we are maintaining full-time office hours. Is the dominant trend. And temporary or part-time is just something like unusual to take place. But in 25 years from now, there will be more and more temporary and part-time work in developing world. So let's think about Japan also. If that would be the case, when you are graduated, you will be full-time or part-time job. This is something that you have to think about. And if you would like to take full-time job, that would lead you to the topic of this class, competence. You would need good competence that meet the requirement in the world market. Otherwise, you may end up in temporary or part-time work. In the next 25 years, older people will keep working until their mid-70s if health permitting. That is possible because of the science and technology, like biomedical technologies. They will be able to work up to their mid-70s or even more. You in Japan may think, well, what is a surprise? Because in Japan, you have seen the elderly above 80 still working, right? But in developing world, they don't. Okay? Surviving older workers in the future will be knowledge workers. Surviving older workers means those who can still have good job and enjoy life. They would have to be knowledge workers because they can take care of themselves in terms of health, in terms of lifelong learning. So that's the makes them survive in the world market. The rapid decrease in younger population would cause an increasing flows of immigration into developed world, because this is some kind of a unbalanced supply and demand in world market. Okay, and this is the situation in the world market. In production things would be changed from now it is youth determined mass market would be, it would turn to middle age determined. So if you when you go to work and you would have to work in a companies that serve the market, the people that you have to think as buyers or consumers of your products would be more those in the middle age than the young population. So this is something that businessmen and academicians has to think about. In the developing world, knowledge will be key resource in the next society. Why this is mentioned for the developed world? Because developing world is more labor intensive, the more manual physical labor. But in developed world, it is knowledge, right? The K economy. But in future time, the knowledge economy would go into the developing world also. Okay? And the main characteristic of knowledge society would be borderlessness, upward mobility, and potential for failure and success are equivalent. Okay, borderless. You can go anywhere, okay, and virtually also. Okay, upward mobility in developing world with labor intensive, their mobility would move from this level of skills, horizontal, okay? But with knowledge society, horizontal movement is not the case, but more upgrade knowledge more and more to be more competent, to be to acquire new socialization of knowledge, okay? And knowledge technologies are likely to become the dominant social and political force over the next decades. Some here are interested in politics, like when they come to Japan, to Kyoto, there was some kind of a political riots in Bangkok. And the key factors are the media man, okay? But in future times, this is for Wataru also, if you want to do research, the new factors for politics would be the knowledge technologist, okay? Not just media. And then there will be also new protectionism, because there will be decline in manufacturing. Right now, in developing world, it's labor-intensive manufacturers, but later on there will be more services, tourism and others, and manufacturing will be declining. Multinational companies will tend to be dominant factors in the world economy. So far, if you think like this, when you graduate and you were to go to work, and based on these information, what kind of a person you would like to be in order to get a job? Your job opportunities would be in multinational enterprises. That would be an option for you, a very good option for you, because it will be dominating kind of corporation in the world economy. And if you would like to work in multinational companies, it is necessary for you to be competent in more than one language, more than one culture. You will also need some kind of to be around here, knowledge technologist. Okay, so these are your future. And this, think about the competence or the attributes that you would like to have when you're a graduate. When we talk about ourselves in the future world, we will not just stand still, but we have to look into the future and try to reposition ourselves towards what is needed in the future. This is also the case in developing world and elsewhere, in Japan also. Okay? There are three components for repositioning and developing human resources. One is skill development, further training. So this tells you that you need to upgrade your skills at work or on-the-job training or whatever, formal or informal, on a lifelong learning basis. Okay, education, health also. But when we talk about education, here we are at university. We know that there are two procedures in schooling, teaching and learning. Sensei teach, right? Students learn, okay? But in practice, senseis also learn from students also, so that sensei would have some kind of new knowledge. And and to produce new knowledge and new knowledge, on and on. So, when we talk about good education, people always say that there is some kind of a gap between the demand and supply. The demand in the labor market and the supply that the university has to produce a good graduates to meet the requirement in the labor market. But in practice, that is not the role of university to do so. What the university needs to do is to equip students with just basic knowledge and self-adjustment capabilities. Others would leave to the students themselves to use this kind of self-adjustment capability to develop their own skills and qualifications, to learn further and to be further trained, because you will have to be trained in the labor market anyway. So what the university has to do is to prepare students to be able to have enough skill for pre-training and on-the-job training with lifelong learning. Sometimes students don't understand what's different between training and skill to be trained. You need something, you need some kind of learning skill to be trained. Because sometimes you always just get and learn, but you don't have some kind of the skills to be further upgraded. When people keep on telling you, they would say, I have enough already. I don't want to be told by others anymore. That is, they lack the skills to be trained, to be further trained in the labor market. I'd like to give you what people are saying about developing world also. This is from the AGB. They have classified developing world in Asia in 4 groups. One is low income. Why I have to bring these issues to you? Because when you are in a developed world, you think that human competence are something that you already know. This is not strange at all, because people elsewhere also think like this. They didn't know that the way to reposition themselves to meet the world economy in the future would be different from one country to another, and from case to case, depend on what you already have. Like in the developing world, the low-income world, what they have is they have low wage in the labor market. Okay, and then they are labor intensive. They rely on labor intensive industries. So what is recommended for them is nothing else but to raise the labor productivity. Why? Because now it is still low. And in order to catch up with the world on the international competitiveness, they have to raise their productivity. And if they do so, the ADB said their international competitiveness is still large. So there's some kind of a potentiality for them still available if they get on the right track, which is to focus on productivity. The case would be different for middle income countries. Here we have the Philippines as a middle-income country. Can you tell what are other countries that belongs to middle-income country? Philippines is one. What about others? Indonesia. What else? Can you tell? Malaysia, yes. What else? Thailand. Okay. Here, they said that they need a different set of human resource strategies in order to move towards skill-intensive activities in production. They have to reposition themselves from labor-intensive to skill-intensive. Okay, and what they have to do is to give emphasis. This is the role of the public sphere, right? To give an emphasis on basic and applied science and technology on tertiary level curriculum in university, right? This is what is needed, the SNT, so that they will here be geared towards skill intensive. And in terms of our research and development program is also recommended. The new industrialized economies. Can you tell what are they? Taiwan, South Korea, Hong Kong. Okay. They are characterized in terms of they aspire to a position of leadership in scientific innovations and technological advances rather than remaining as imitators. So you think of South Korea. South Korea doesn't want to imitate technology from Japan anymore. Okay, and South Korea would like to be at the forefront in terms of scientific innovations. And they can do that. South Korea can do that already. What about others? Okay, but in order to strengthen their position, they would need some kind of management system which is flexible for research. As I said earlier in the case of the Philippines, this is what the Singapore government is trying to do in order to upgrade Singapore to leadership in scientific innovations. When university lecturers or researchers has got grants in research projects, a certain amount, the government would give them 3 times more to add to that project. That is what they are trying to do out there in new industrialized economy. But when we are talking about Central Asia, there are also transitional economies from socialism, right? In Southeast Asia, we have developing countries that is transferred from socialism to transnational economies also. But the case is different from here. Okay, this is in Central Asia because the difference is that they have already skilled manpower. But the socialist transnational economies in Southeast Asia lack skilled manpower. So this is the difference between these two parts of the world, okay? And in order to these parts of the world to be competitive in the world, what they need is to identify their niche products and area and the R&D, higher education. So you see that the focus would be different from one case to another, right? John Naisbitt also identified trends for the future for us also. One, from nation state to networks, there will be more networks. So one nation state, one country cannot rely on their own. They have to rely on network. They have to create network creation, just like this program, COE program. This is innovation and rely on network. Okay. Export led to consumer driven. This is the world be changing like that. From Western influence to the Asian way. So this is the role of Asia, the future of Asia. If you're good, if you are with appropriate human competences, you can dominate the world. From government-driven to market-driven, so the role of the public sphere would be minimizing. Okay, central government control and direction of the economies have shifted to market economies. From village in rural areas to super cities, from labor-intensive to high technology, from male dominance to the emergence of women, from Western world to the rise of the East. So this is the same as that one, right? But the key for us is here. 6, 7, 3. Okay, this is 3 for us, and 4. The Asian strategic architecture. This is what, if you would like to be, this is what Philip Kohler said in his book, Reposition Asia from Bubble to Sustained Economy. So if you would like to have, to let the Asia be influential in the world of birth in the future, this is what Asia needs to do, Asian countries. Okay? One is to position themselves exactly what they would like to be. So Japan would have to position Japan. What Japan would like to be in future times. Okay? One thing, we know that Japan would like to have sustained economy. And if Japan would like to have the largest emerging sustainable economy, I don't know, but other countries would come to join this also, right? New Asia, the new Asia would be some kind of a thinking in both academic, politics, and business world. Okay? And this is what to do, is to try to differentiate oneself from another. Like this COE program, that has to identify some kind of niche of the program to differentiate the program from another. Okay, one thing is to rely on network and to become a world-class program. Okay? To let students have ideas in terms of others, what they are. Okay? And to look not only in terms of a particular country, but to look in terms of the region economy. Okay, mean, to look in terms of the academic, whatever is academic, but to combine the economy, the politics, and the business, the real world together. Okay? One thing is to keep balance between all those things and to adapt. Okay? And the role of the government is recognized. This is in the economy. What would be needed? The IT, the world of IT, the agricultural technology, manufacturing would be, there would be some kind of infrastructure in terms of trade infrastructure, investment infrastructure, tourism infrastructure. Of course, the legal system must be there. Okay? This is the environment of the new world. So far, we have been talking about what is going on in the world. What will be going on in the world. According to the gurus have been saying, okay, we are in Asia. People said that Asia would be the future of the world. But those who are in the looking to Asia from the perspective of demographic dividend, we would say that that future is not guaranteed if we don't have appropriate policies and mechanisms to intervene to change what is going on now. People say that Asia is the future world because they rely on, they look back to what Asia was doing. Asia was able to reach the so-called Asian miracle. Okay? And that is part of the demographic dividend that makes Asia becomes Asian miracle. Okay? Compare with East Asia. Not all Asia would be the future of the world. Because when we talk about Southeast Asia, which is mostly middle income and low income economies, the demographic dividend that will be take place in Southeast Asia will not be equal to those took place in East Asia when the Asian miracle was the case. Okay, because we have poorer education compared to East Asia. Okay, so in order, if they would like to upgrade, to reposition Southeast Asia, to obtain, to maximize or to capitalize on the demographic dividend at the level equivalent or nearly equivalent to East Asia, the HRD would be the case, would be the key point of concern. So when we talk about human resources, there are three keywords that people keeps on confusing. What are they? Sometimes there are like competency, some say competence, some say competencies, IES. But they don't exactly know what are the difference between these three ones. Okay? If you talk about competencies, it's person-related concept that refers to the dimension of behavior, lying behind competent performer, but for competence would be more work related. So if you are going to get a job, okay, you may have to think what the business or what the enterprise that you would like to get in would require you to do, or what kind of skills that you would have. The way you are thinking is more like this, more in terms of competence, work related. Okay. But when people use the competencies, there is some kind of combination between these two things. If we try to look at the three things together, this is more like a macro perspective. And the role of the university to make students to become, to be equipped with this kind of competencies, okay? And this would be more in terms of training, in terms of skills. Okay. Types of competencies. There are many things, okay? One is generic or specific, performance or threshold, and differentiating competencies. Basic competencies required to do the job, which do not differentiate between high and low performance. Okay, but this include both. The threshold includes both basic and performance competencies. The difference is that this doesn't differentiate, but these do. This doesn't differentiate between high and low performance. This is more behavioral characteristics that high performers display. This is, if you think like those who are the high performers, you may think of like a diplomat. They would have special or some kind of characteristics that others don't have. Okay, they have like negotiating skills. They know how to negotiate. They know how to be socialized. Something that not many people can have. Okay, so this is for the high performers. Okay, and this is something particular needed for those who would like to get a job. You would like to be different from others. So now you may have to think when you graduate and you were to get into a job, what kind of a person you would like to be different from others, so that when the human resource department look at you and pick you rather than others. They would see this when you go to interview. Okay, but this they will see when you do some kind of quiz, when you apply for a job, but this will reflect from the interview. Macro competencies management. When we talk about human competences, or we as a resource person, a human resource, we will not have to just think about self, but we have to think of the whole world of work. Okay, the connection. Okay, this is you yourself and you graduate. You have to think upward. Okay, but the organization have to think like this. Okay, they would have to define that they have the mission, the vision, the values, the strategies, and then they would see what kind of core competencies of that particular organization is. And then it tells you what kind of a person they would like to recruit. Okay? Okay? And the strategy to get that is like this. You will see that multi-skilling is the case in the world already. Role of competencies, role competencies. What are the role competencies? Okay, the one that I said it is you, right? Here. Okay, and see more. A set of competencies required to perform a given role. Each competency has a skill set. Not a skill, but a skill set. Okay? And we have to look also at the both macro and micro levels. Social components, academic component, to get along at the micro level, this would be along each career path. Okay? And this is more demand-driven. The core competencies, what are the core competencies? The core competencies are something that is valuable, rare, costly to imitate, and non-substitutable. So this is something that you would have to identify among yourself in order to be competitive advantage. Okay? What qualifications that you would like to have that it would be costly for others to imitate you. Okay, and you are rare, you will be assets to a particular organization that you belong. This is the core competencies. The nexus between competence and productivity, this is the linkage between competence and demographic dividend. Okay? This is based on the notion that fundamental human competence in terms of ability to do what needs to be done, to deal productively with another person and the environment. Okay? This is based on this notion. Competence is perceived in terms of potential to achieve value accomplishments, both technical and social abilities. And not only at the organizational level, but also the national level, to have to think about the connection between competence and productivity. Here they said that use and useful knowledge, skills and attitude are often considered as essential part of competence, while skills may also refer to practical knowledge. So far you have some idea, right, that skills and knowledge are different. And there are some kinds of knowledge that you can rely on. Use and usable, okay? When we talk about skills or practical knowledge, there are two kinds, explicit and tacit, okay? One may find skills resemble tacit knowledge if the tacit knowledge is defined in terms of the familiarity with the work and the ability to make adjustments about performance. So this is to tell you that there are differences in terms of skills and knowledge, but they can transposition among themselves because there are some kind of explicit and tacit. This is to give you more in detail that both knowledge and skills are transferable, okay, between individuals and as well as between different occupations and different jobs. Learning theories maintain that explicit knowledge, or that an individual can declare, explicit means something, knowledge that you can tell this is your knowledge, okay? But the tacit knowledge is something that is deep inside you, something you don't realize that is your knowledge, okay? But for the explicit knowledge, something that you can declare can be converted into more complex sets of explicit knowledge by adding more and more. Okay, so it would be in terms of like this. Like person one, okay? When you read something that you learn get inside you, and that's become tacit knowledge. Okay? You don't even know that you have it. But once you may get it when sometimes the knowledge is 100%. Okay? And when you read, the knowledge that you read would be like 50%. Okay? And you try to write, to express them out by writing. Okay? That is a different kind of knowledge that is expressed in your note. That is explicit knowledge. Okay? And that can be maximized if you give or you provide tutorial classes, or you tell your colleagues, okay, you do the tutorial class to your colleague by giving lecture, okay, your colleague learn, and then they keep it in their own body, their own mind, okay, internalize. And when you talk, socialization, you watch this person do whatever, it becomes socialization. The key is the socialization here. Okay? So they said that knowledge can be created, is more like a circle of knowledge creation. Learning by doing can internalize explicit into tacit knowledge. Socialization, such as a learner watches and interacts with an expert, is like mentor and mentee, right? Can contribute to a whole body of experience. Like if you are learning something in the laboratory, you read a lot, your supervisors told you to read a lot. You still don't understand what you are reading until you sit side by side with your supervisor, telling him what you have learned, and he tells you what he understands, and you watch him what he's doing. That is a kind of socialization. And that you realize that by doing so, your knowledge has maximized, upgraded, okay, to a whole body of experience. You learn a lot, okay? So this is something of socialization, that this is the key, okay? Once the tacit knowledge is translated and expressed in form that are comprehensible to the conscious mind of an individual and to others, the tacit knowledge is externalized to explicit knowledge. Okay, so this is how tacit knowledge becomes spelled out. Okay, this is money. You can earn a lot if you spell out your tacit knowledge into explicit knowledge. This is some kind of intellectual property rights that people would be able to see, but something, the intellectual property rights that nobody can buy from you is in the tacit knowledge. So this is some kind of the cycle of knowledge creation. Okay, something that you can, once you learn something, you can create your own knowledge. So this is the key point for learning skills for you to be more competent than others. Okay, when you learn and you create your own knowledge, not just to get from others and imitate what is going on. This is the way South Korea and Singapore is trying to do, to create their own knowledge, innovation, through socialization. Okay? Socialization, and then to a new loop of socialization, and new knowledge creation. So that's why they said, once you learn something, it's never stop. You can keep on thinking and thinking and thinking. And it's not good that you keep on studying by yourself in a locked room, a closed door room. You need, when you learn something, you have to go and talk to other people to tell them this that you have learned. Chit and chat, that you will be able to create new knowledge from that process. Knowledge creation and transposition of competencies, how that can be the case, okay? Such a process of knowledge generation is further supported by the concept of transposition of competencies and learning. It means that both competencies and knowledge can be moved from one position to another. Okay? The transposition of competency and learning spells out the possibility for a learner's level of competency and professionalism to be elevated to a higher plane along expanding circles of the competency theory that shown in the previous slide. Okay, according to this kind of notion, learning can be turned into the function of competency itself. So knowledge and competency are different, but how knowledge has become competency, it is along this kind of process. Okay. This is something to tell you that a certain levels of skills or qualification or competencies can be upgraded to another level, level 1 to level 2. Okay, the skills, okay, the competencies, the qualifications can be upgraded in all directions. Knowledge process in the future. This needs some kind of interrelations between the academic world and the real world of the labor market, right? Both arena have to create their own knowledge, okay? The academic world, the university have to create knowledge, generate knowledge. The industry have to generate knowledge also. But once they interact, there will be knowledge, new knowledge to satisfy society. So far you will see that there is more university-industry partnership in Japan. Okay, like at Kyoto, they would have strong partnership with Toyota so that they will create new knowledge, something like that, that serve the society. So you see so far that solar cell car or whatever, that is some kind of knowledge that has intertwined between the university and Toyota. This is something that is the trend. But this is only something that to be strengthened further, okay? And to be transferred to others also, to the students, to the workers, so that they become more and more competent in both areas, okay? The role of the faculty, okay? The curriculum, okay? And if these are interacted, okay, knowledge would be, there will be new knowledge and new talent, okay? You need some kind of a learning organization, need research, joint research from here, best practice, what to do, okay? And then turn out into curriculum, industrial teacher, things like that. This will lead to here. Okay, is some kind of a loop that will never end. The competence development and lifelong learning. What was said earlier is the basis for competence development for the knowledge society in this century. The working group for international cooperation in skills development said in 2007 something that supports this kind of notion that that now it is some kind of the role of skills development is more and more in need for competence development because the economy is growing. Okay, the changing need in the world economy, in the world market, and the globalization has caused changing nature of work too. For a particular person, this is what to be put as an attribute for a particular person. They should have to be like a competent and productive workforce. They should have good basic skills, specific skills, and general skills. Both are to be interact together. Okay? So far we are talking about Asia. Okay? And certain part of Asia, like Japan, is depopulation, is in the process of depopulation already. Why not look at the other part of the world, which is also in the process of depopulation and doing for their workforce? This is the Commission of European Commission has designed a framework for all members of the European Union to try to make their people to have this kind of qualifications throughout the 21st century. When you read this, try to think of Japan also. If you are close or you are far from this kind of framework, okay, communication in mother tongue, no problem for Japan, right? But it is the case in European Union. Because in European Union there are several languages already. Okay? It may be also the case for a particular country that has lots of ethnic groups. Okay? What about foreign languages? This is not only to know foreign languages in the EU, but to know other foreign languages also, like Japanese. You will see that more and more European people speak Japanese, speak Chinese. Okay? Think of yourself too. Okay? Mathematics, science and technology. You're close here, right? This is quite similar to Japan. Digital competences. This is close to Japan. Learning to learn. This I don't know. You have to tell for yourself. Okay. Interpersonal, intercultural, social competences and civic competence. Entrepreneurship, cultural expression. This is the key points, key qualifications for all European people would be provided throughout the 21st century. Okay. Points to note here. Explicit knowledge is a commodity, as I said earlier, in the form of intellectual property, patent, knowledge. Others, sometimes they call it some kind of a knowledge capital already, because we can earn and get money from that. Okay, like you write a book, that is, you can earn money from the book already, that is an explicit knowledge. Okay, but that is less valuable than the tacit knowledge. Because this is something you can earn more and more. Nobody can buy. Okay? But this is yours. Nobody can imitate yours. So that is to be accumulated, enriched, but you need to have going through the process of socialization. Okay? The explicit knowledge is the strong point for developed world, but the weakness for developing world. Okay. So that's why you will see that Japan has really trying to have more publications, more and more publications in English and in other languages. Okay. Development of innovative talent is a combination of innovative attitude, basic academic skills, this is what the university has to provide you, ethics, and fundamental skills as a member of the society. This is social. This is the intimate sphere. Okay, this is the public sphere. This is the intimate sphere. Okay? But the public sphere has to provide you with this. Okay, so that you will be and try to encourage you to have this kind of innovative attitudes like breakthrough thinking, risk-taking, decision-making, drive to achieve, and leadership. Okay? This is the key innovative attitude for a success in the world of work. You need this. Breakthrough thinking, like think out of the box. This is the key point that will differentiate you from others. And this should be the core competence for you. Breakthrough thinking. Risk-taking. Why this is needed? Because the world is changing. You have to dare to take the risk. Okay? Drive to achieve. You have the guts to do. You have the guts to take a risk to do whatever. And you have to have some kind of leadership. Not to be followers, but to be at the forefront. Okay? And to be a member of society, these are what they said needed. You have to have this also. respect diversities. This is the key for the changing world so far, because if you work in a multinational enterprises, you have to be positioned somewhere outside Japan, and you have to have these kind of qualifications. Okay. Before a manager or a corporate transferee to be transferred from one country to another to take position as manager in another country, this is the key point for the human resource department to train you before you go to another country, both in business world and diplomatic world. Okay, diversities to respect them. Even you have to be positioned in somewhere that is less developed, you have to respect them. Future prospects. This is just a case that, like a middle income country. Okay. We are trying to follow the trend also. Okay, not just developed world like European Unions or others. Developing countries at the middle income level is trying to do so also. Okay, one thing is that we have some kind of a positive sign in terms of economic development. This is before the economic crisis. Okay, but even with the economic crisis, the trend of economic growth for 2009 for Asia, Southeast Asia would be climb up a bit, and that would be better thereafter. Okay, and we have been doing what the Peter Drucker said in the earlier slide in terms of secondary education. Okay. This is still a problem that we don't put much effort in terms of vocational education. Okay, but the tertiary education is there's improvement there a lot already. Okay, tertiary and secondary improvement. But despite the positive sign, okay, there's still urgent need to move away from skilled, low-skilled, labor-intensive to a value-added and competitive industry based on identity, managerial expertise, and higher technical skills of labor. This is just for Thailand only. But when we compare to others, like Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, and South Korea, these are middle income, right? Middle income, and this is more advanced. Okay. Thailand is over-reliant on resource-based and labor-intensive industry. So Thailand is some kind of poor in terms of prospects to catch up in the world in the 21st century. Okay, because we too much rely on the resource. Okay, labor intensive. Okay, this is labor intensive. So here, half of the economy already. Okay, comparing to Indonesia. Okay, Indonesia is poorer than Thailand. Comparing with South Korea, like this, and this is Singapore, Malaysia. Okay, so what? China and Indonesia is still worse than Thailand. So they have to be provide improvement a lot in terms of investment in tertiary education. Okay. Relationship between natural resource, export, and wealth. This is up to the country, the current position of particular countries here already. Japan is here, okay? Closer to Germany and the US. Thailand is here, Malaysia. Okay. The strength and weakness. Okay. We are limited in terms of high-skilled workers. They are untrained, but they are easy to train and to learn quickly. This is their strength already. Okay. They are unmotivated and lack of work ethic. This is the real, very key point. Okay. Unconcerned and with deadline and punctuality. This is also a very strong weakness point in Thailand. Okay, but they are respectful and confrontational. Okay, skilled labor we have some. Okay, and doesn't cost that much. This is from a business perspective. But there are many more of the Thai workforce to be upgraded, okay, in terms of skills, okay, and in terms of the attitude. Still need more responsibility, truthfulness and integrity, work commitment, and good citizenship. Okay. Others may be shared by some other countries, like proficiency in English. Not many Thai people speak English. Mathematics, we are good, but not that good. Okay. Global literacy, we are not. The majority of Thai people, they don't know about the world that much. Okay. The analytical and research skills, not many of them. Okay, only a few of them that have this kind of thing. The thinking skills. Okay, creative, rational thinking, analytical thinking, creative thinking. This is the key point. Okay. So far, we are the Education Act is trying to pave the way for that already. And they have put the key notions in terms of basic, general, and specific skills and quality of work life and the quality of life into the Education Act already. They are trying to do the educational reform for lifelong learning. But lifelong learning in Thailand is different from Japan. Lifelong learning in Japan is more like there are like community libraries or whatever that you can take children to learn everywhere that they can learn everywhere. Okay. But in Thailand, it's more limited to some kind of structured learning. So in Japan, it's more unstructured, right? Combination between structured and unstructured. But in Thailand, it's more structured. So we still have to upgrade our reform in terms of this to follow the Japanese trend. Sustainable development of human competences. This is what to be required. This is some kind of a role of universities in Southeast Asia in Thailand is trying to do for the students to enable them to be human capital, social capital, and cultural capital. this is some kind of a new social contract. Let's see. Something that this is the key point for those in the business sectors is trying to rely on this. Okay, they are moving in this direction. Okay, and to get away from here already. Okay, they rely on the competitive advantage, increasing return on investment, education as specialized and focused. Okay, in terms of human relations must be more interdependent, team-oriented rather than individual-oriented. In terms of learning, it would be more system thinking, okay, integrative approach or interdisciplinary approach. So far, it's not just interdisciplinary, but multidisciplinary approach, okay? And in terms of justice and social equity, laws and regulations are the key. So this is the public sphere. Okay. Towards sustainable development of human competences, you need a system model that is to strengthen tacit knowledge, accumulation, socialization, and enrichment of the tacit knowledge. Okay, so that the knowledge is deep. Okay, the knowledge can be transpositioned, the knowledge can be transferred, the knowledge can be going on, and to be pervasive. Okay, this is to tell you that if we don't do anything in terms of knowledge transposition or knowledge creation or knowledge upgrading or skills upgrading, the normal trend of the people in terms of skill would be like this. Okay, you will gain more skills when you are become beginning in the labor force, and it would be more when you are like in the middle position already, and then it declined. This more in terms of basic skills if you don't upgrade, but with the role of the public sphere for further training on lifelong learning, this one can be like this up here. Okay? Can this be the case? Yes. This next slide tell you that it can be the case because this is the basic skill that you get from your education, university, if you turn down like this. But this is something that you learn on the job, the management and communication. Okay, this is workplace learning and it can be upgraded like that. Okay, so this is something that we need to be to pay attention to in order to upgrade the skills. If this can be upgraded, this can also be upgraded. Okay, from after you are in the 40s, back there, because the previous slides we said that the elderly would be still working up to the mid-70s, right? If they are still have if they health permit. And if this become low and decline, and this, suppose this decline, how can those in the mid-70s survive? Okay? It also says that those in the mid-70s, the successful elderly, the survivors, the elderly survivors, would have to be knowledge learner. Okay? So that they have to be, this is the role of the skills that have to be upgraded, the competencies and others. Among countries, there are the literacy rate vary from country to another. In Asia, it is like this for male and female, and we know already that the female would be, in terms of the size of the female proportion, particularly when they turn aging, they'll be rise more and more. Okay, so this leads to the role of training, on-the-job training, so that will be further upgraded. Okay, and this is some kind of a number of working age adult per dependent in Southeast Asia and South Central Asia. This is a more low income and middle income developing world identified by the ADB, right? And this is the central, which has more like more skilled, but less socialization. Okay, this is central. This is South and Central Asia, and this is Southeast Asia, declining from the year 2013. So we have to make sure that, despite the fact that they are declining, they have to be equipped with enough competencies and skills so that when they turn aging, okay, they would still be survive in the world market up to their mid-70s, right? But if we don't do that, we will have skills crisis. Okay, because so far we have suffered those with professional skills already. Okay, and we don't have much investment in terms of skill-intensive services. So we also need investment in the education system also. This is what the ADB maintained in 2008. Okay, and I would like to, this is going to be the last slide for the first session, that the skills here, the skills crisis, what we need, okay? We looked at Thailand already, okay? But the whole ASEAN, okay, we need some kind of these skills, the shortages. Shortage of qualified staff, okay, in Southeast Asia. We lack a lot of this. We lack a lot of this, okay, professional services. So these are the key points that Southeast Asia needs to be upgraded. Okay. This will be to the next session. Okay. They have the so-called Grain Korea 21. Okay. Singapore is also like that. Okay. For like Myanmar, for example, the low-income developing country, Myanmar would like the national agenda is to develop to the same level as other Southeast Asian countries. Okay. For Malaysia would like to be a developed country, a higher income country, equivalent to Singapore or higher. But at the same time, Singapore is moving away, right, to be at the forefront of developed country. Singapore is trying to do everything to be at the forefront of developed countries. Okay. Singapore is relatively new in terms of nation building, but Singapore is trying to be above those countries that has been the big powers in terms of science and technology already. So what about Japan? What is the national agenda of Japan? I'm asking you because I have been trying to find this, but I cannot find. I haven't seen what the Japanese government is spelling out, what they are trying to do, what they are trying to move into in 10 years' time. I cannot tell. So you are the Japanese, you probably know more than me. Can you tell me? I wonder if Japan would be like Thailand as having this unclear national agenda. We in Thailand, we don't have a clear idea where we would go in 10 years' time from now. We don't have a clear position where we would like to be. We would like to be like Malaysia, we would like to be like Singapore, or we would like to be near the United States or the EU, we don't know. Okay. So this is a problem of certain countries that are getting into aging society. But this is more problem. The problem is more pronounced for the Japanese because you are in the process of depopulation. So you may try to think for yourself and think for the society also. Okay? Try to think out of the box what you would like Japan to be. There is an episode, a TV drama that try to imitate what President Obama is trying to do to change. And that TV drama is something like a new person get into the politics trying to change something. That is good. But I don't know where this will lead to. You need a clear idea in order to solve your own problem. Otherwise, because Japan is in the process of depopulation, you have the smallest size of children population, of child population, below 15 already. You have growing people above 65, okay, and female workforce decline in the labor market. So think about what I said in terms of demographic dividend. Would it be good for Japan to keep on doing like this? So try, if you are have a chance to do research, you may have to think in terms of comparative study, okay? What countries in East Asia is trying to do, and that includes Japan, so that you would be able to tell what would you like Japan to be. Okay. Here, this is something that if one would like to design the future, or to put a country another position in the world. They have to think from different perspectives, like economic perspective, social perspective, geopolitics, the environmental. Environmental is not just like the environment, but everything, the needed policy, the society that is in terms of the infrastructure, the laws, things like that. Okay, that should be some kind of a paradigm shift, a new competitive paradigm. Okay, and from the social perspective, there would be some kind of new competitive landscape. Okay, like I raised to you during previous class in terms of the United States is trying to design their own landscape in terms of society, that they are now in the process of putting the whole immigration regimes to revise the whole immigration regimes in order to attract more human capital from all over the world to get a job, to work, to contribute to the economy of the United States. This is something that the social landscape would be changing and be more and more competitive for the United States. Okay, that is the case before the economic crisis. But once the economic crisis is over, the United States would resume this kind of policy strenuously, I would say, okay? Because the United States has to try to bring in human capital from all over the world. Otherwise, they would go to Australia, because Australia has more job opportunities. Okay, and that is not good for the United States if they don't do like this, because the United States is also in the process of depopulation. Australia is also in the process of depopulation. So the social landscape is changing. Will be changing a lot in 10 years' time from now for the United States and many others. Okay? The geopolitics, strategic thrust. Okay? Let's talk about the United States again. Before Mr. Obama get into the office, there has been research telling already that Asia is the key factor of the future world. The United States has been ignoring Asia for quite a long time. But before Mr. Obama get into the office, all the think tanks from the United States, the key positions flew to Bangkok to talk about how the United States would be involved in Asia, and particularly in Southeast Asia, and particularly in Thailand. Why Southeast Asia? Because there are lots of opportunities there. The population, from the perspective of demographic dividend, okay, the population in the labor force is still growing, and there are potentiality for them to be upgraded. Despite the education is not very good, it's low, but training can be added. Training can be given to all of them in Southeast Asia. Okay, and this is some kind of the strategic thrust. Okay, because the economy is here, and why the United States is thinking about Southeast Asia rather than others. Another factor is that because China is giving an eye on Southeast Asia, China is closer to Southeast Asia and has closer relations in terms of history, in terms of culture and everything. So the United States has to do something to get in there, to be engaged in Southeast Asia. Okay. The environmental, the social contract, the new social contract. As Joan Nasbit said earlier in the previous slide, that the role of the government would be changing and the labor market would take their prominent role comparing to the government. But the business people are profit maximizer, right? The role of the civil society would be more pronounced. If we don't let the civil society to be more active, the world will not be changing. Okay? So we need some kind of infrastructure to allow them to work. Okay? And to strengthen some kind of community network. Let's talk about some kind of aging society. When people talk about aging society, they would say, wow, that's some kind of pension. That is the burden. That is some kind of the government budget to put into social welfare for the elderly. Okay? But many countries that has been in depopulation process have been thinking that just relying on government budget to provide for the social welfare, the public transfer, is not good to the society, is not good to the economy, because the burden would be more and more. So they are thinking of strengthen community ties to rely on themselves to help one another. Okay? Here in Japan, we have seen some community building in terms of community ties to help the elderly people to try to have good health already, but that is not enough. Okay? That kind of community ties has to be more architectured to put all the generations into the community ties. This is not new at all. This is something took place in the old days already. Just revive them, that kind of ties. Okay, and that would be, this is the key idea for the second demographic dividend. Okay, this is some kind of social landscape that, for example, in Southeast Asia, from a demographic dividend perspective, we said that demographic dividend is a window of opportunity. Okay, it takes place when the proportion of the workforce population is high, comparing to the proportion of the dependency ratio or the dependency people, which means the those 60s and above, and those 15 and below. Okay, this is some kind of a window of opportunity that has been that can be taking place. Okay, a window of opportunity, and it will be closed once these lines meet. okay, in future times. Okay, but this still going on in one country. This is Thailand. Okay, but if we try to connect another window of opportunity of another country, this would be go on and no end, right? This is some kind of changing the social landscape. Okay, this is to be the case because ASEAN is trying. This is ASEAN, okay? This is Thailand. This is last PDR. This is Myanmar, for example. The opportunities, the window of opportunities, rather than one window. Okay, there will be 3 windows that countries can enjoy. Thailand can enjoy for a long time. Myanmar can also enjoy if the social landscape change into some kind of a community, ASEAN community. Okay, and this would be the case if there is a freer flow of people, the human capital, to transfer the knowledge from here from Thailand to last BDR to Myanmar, and from Myanmar and last BDR to learn something from Thailand. This is something that the knowledge transfer is the key point for the demographic dividend. Okay, so while the Thailand would be expected to have in the aging society in future times, Thailand can still enjoy the first demographic dividend as well as the second demographic dividend simultaneously with the ASEAN communities. So as the Laos, BDR, and Myanmar, this is, as you know, this is low-income, developing, and transition economies. Okay, Myanmar is also low-income, developing country. Okay, one can learn from another in terms of the knowledge transfer, and we have learned already, right, the role of knowledge transposition, okay, the socialization, knowledge creation, okay, that can be also in terms of social landscape as well. And when we talk about the people, those in the workforce, okay, 15 to 60 and 60s and above, okay, we have learned already that in the future time there will be more part-time and temporary job, okay. This is to be put there to recognize that these are part of the labor market. Otherwise, this would be considered as something not in the labor market, something not formal, okay, not formalized one, okay. And besides those in the formal labor market, there is also in the informal labor market, which include both full-time and part-time. That is to be recognized, okay. So the idea for the ASEAN demographic dividend to take place via the ASEAN economic community, what is needed in Southeast Asia is growing flexible, productive labor market. The term flexible here means that to recognize the existence of the part-time job. Okay? And growing means that the retirement age is not just limited to 60, because in Thailand, in Southeast Asia, retirement is 60. in Japan is 65, right? Okay, so we add that should be, they would be in the labor market beyond 60. Okay, and then there should be provided some kind of a center to monitor what is going on, okay, and to provide some kind of standard, the skill standard, okay, in terms of to upgrade the competencies and the quality of work life, okay. The mutual recognition arrangements, the lifelong learning, this is something that put into the diagram for the demographic dividend to take place from just one demographic dividend to 3 demographic dividends while enjoying the second demographic dividend simultaneously. Okay, this is something that is to be strengthened and encouraged when the ASEAN Economic Community takes place by the year 2015 and beyond that. Okay, so far, Asia has been recognized as its dynamism as the world's third most important economic region after the United States and Europe, right? And besides the world's biggest source of the global food, Asia is also the major supplier of agricultural and industrial products as well as services also. Okay, so this is why the gurus always say that Asia can be the future. Okay, as I said earlier. Previous growth in many parts of Asia was contributed by high proportion of population in the labor force age. Okay, this is the wrap-up session already. Okay, particularly youth adult. Okay, so the contribution of the so-called demographic dividend was through productive employment, asset creation, and investment. Okay. This will not be the case. Investment will not be the case if productive employment is unlikely. Okay? Productive employment would allow people to be able to enjoy life and to use to have certain kind of asset, okay, and to put the rest of money or the rate of return to investment. The economic growth in Asia varies, okay? But the ADB expects that it would be much better from this year onwards, okay? Not as good as the year 2007 yet, okay? But there are certain parts of Asia that can be playing an important role, okay, in terms of good prospect in economic growth during the year 2009. Okay, that is South Asia. Okay, this is the key prospect. Okay, so you see the role of India to play a more active role in the world so far. Okay, apparent to Southeast Asia. This is the trend of population in the region. Asia had a population about this 3 billion, okay, almost 4 in the year 2006, and there'll be more, 365 million more by the year 2015 when ASEAN is supposed to be ASEAN community, right? Okay. Yet, such population growth will be of a declining rate from an average rate of 1.4% to 1% by then. The labor force, let's look into the labor force. It was 1.8 billion in 2006, which represents almost 60% of the world labor force, okay? And about 12% to be added more by then, okay? This is not a good prospect because this is some kind of slowdown in the labor force growth already, okay? This is triggered by Japan and followed by others in East Asia. We'll see the slides after this. Okay, the socio-economic challenges. Okay, it was here, right? 59% of the labor force. Okay, and here, okay, there'll be. This is a declining rate of the labor force growth. Okay. 1.6% comparing to 1.3% up to the year 2015, comparing to 1.6 during 1996 and 2006. Okay. What about in the developed Asia? Okay, declining by 3.6 million people, driven largely by trends in Japan. China and Korea are also expected to show significant decline in the prime age population share. Prime age population is from 15 to 25, something like that. Okay, this represents potential demographic cliff of lower output growth. They are expected to face emerging labor shortages and other social economic consequences of aging workforce. Southeast Asia as developing Asia is also the case. Okay, the optimum condition for demographic dividend in Southeast Asia, in Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam, will be declining after 2010, next year, simultaneously. Malaysia and Indonesia will be following the trend after the labor force peak in the year 2020. This is the trend of the people 50 and above. Okay. It was here, okay, 30%, and increased to 60% in the case of Hong Kong by the year 2050. Okay, it's 50 in 20 years from now. Okay, that is followed by Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, China, the same. And then these are the Indonesia. India, you see, this is South Asia that has a very better prospects comparing to East Asia and Southeast Asia. Okay. Malaysia and the Philippines has also good prospects, but the Philippines has poor in terms of relatively poor in terms of the demographic dividend because their workforce is less productive when they work in the Philippines because they move elsewhere in the world, okay? They become diasporas already. The prospects of Asia, so it tells that the prospects of Asia are varied and the challenges still remain for Asia if it is to maintain the dynamism in the 21st century. Among the key challenges are the quality and the size of the population to capitalize on the knowledge-based economy. Okay? Otherwise, the demographic dividend is not guaranteed. The appropriate approach is to secure productive jobs. This is imperative to not only developing Asia, but I think developed Asia also, still to maintain productive job for all. For all, this means all working age. Okay, so that also means those in the elderly, those we have the retired elderly that has gone. We have said already that we expect that the elderly in Asia would be still working up to the mid-70s, right? If their health permit. So if they get still maintained in the labor market, we have also to secure their productive job for them. And this would lead to the key aspects for this COE program, that the demographic dividend is the case that it is supposed to link local, okay, and the neighborhood and the region to the global. There must be some kind of a linkage, because many aspects of a particular country to enjoy the demographic dividend is not just limited to the workforce within the country, but we can also enjoy workforce from elsewhere in order to strengthen the demographic dividend and to extend the period of the demographic dividend from one window of opportunity to 3 windows of opportunity, as in the case of ASEAN, that is going to be some kind of ASEAN economic community, okay? But if you look in terms of the United States that I mentioned, in terms of their reform of the immigration regimes, you will see that they are trying to enjoy the demographic dividend by trying to link the whole world together, trying to bring all the human capitals into the United States in years to come, okay? That is one thing in terms of the social landscape in the horizontal perspective. This is something that is particularly needed if the demographic dividend is to be maximized, to be capitalized on the social cohesion, okay? Sufficiency, community building, cultural identity, and family value, okay? This is the key point to get into the local landscape here, okay? The not just community building, but that to be integrated, the family value must be put as part of the community building, and the identity, cultural identity, must be put in there, okay? This is also reflected in the slides that I show you on the European Union, that they have some kind of design, the competencies for the European people in the 21st century, that they must have some kind of competencies in mother tongue, okay, competencies in the in foreign languages, competencies in terms of the their own culture and other culture. Okay, this is something that the European Union would like to provide some kind of a European social cohesion in there already, okay, before they go to get international competitiveness, okay. And in terms of international competitiveness, would be the function of efficiency, cost effectiveness, productivity, and innovation. This is different from the previous decades, but this is particularly the need for the 21st century. As I said earlier, the John Naisbitt, Peter Drucker, and the ADB said that this is the key innovation. This is the key for the future world already, right? And productivity is particularly the case for developing world. This is for the developed world to keep on going, and for the middle income developing world to upgrade themselves, reposition themselves into this, right? But in all cases, efficiency and cost effectiveness are the key for international competitiveness. This is based on a guru in Thailand has been trying to rethink what the other gurus has been saying and telling in terms of a new competitive paradigm. Okay, local links, global reach. This is Chulalongkorn University. We are trying to be a world-class university, but trying to still maintain the cultural identity. Okay, this building was built 100 years ago, and this is some kind of a very popular tourist spot. People like to go there to take pictures. If you have a chance to go there, don't forget to go take photos there. Okay. So any questions so far? This lecture on the demographic dividend and the future of Asia. The first part, the first lecture was an overall perspective, right? And then there would be some kind of migration, people on the move, transnational mobility, and then the human competences. Okay. Any questions so far? So can you think already what would be the future of Japan during the depopulation process? So that to enjoy the second demographic dividend, right? So it's your role here. Questions? Yes, thank you.
Well, I have a question about the last slide, about the local and global reaches.
Yeah.
That one of the biggest problems today is what is the unit of comparison? And in the 20th century, it was usually on the national level, that countries were compared with countries on national level.
Can you repeat the question?
The unit of comparison is a big question, big problem in today's social sciences. What is the unit of comparison, comparing?
Comparing what and what?
Yeah, I mean, in the 20th century it was countries.
Yeah.
One country was compared with another country.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's being re-questioned. That not only just it is important that
Mm-hmm.
we compare data on the national level,
Mm-hmm.
but just like you mentioned in the last slide, based on McKinsey, that the local communities, regional
Mm-hmm.
and global
Mhm.
levels must be also considered.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of Mackenzie, however, what's the difference between local and neighborhood? And national is, there are two things. One is that national is missing. National shouldn't be neglected.
Right.
This
right.
one thing. The other one, what's the difference between local and neighborhood?
Actually, this is, I think sorry. I think the local here, he was thinking in terms of, this was thinking in terms of one particular local, right? But that can be also interpreted in terms of a nation also. Okay, this one was designed in terms of one community, one product in order to reach to the world. But this can be applied in terms of a nation, national, okay, and the neighboring countries, okay, and the region, and the global perspective also. Okay. What I was trying to explain is to not just local in terms of community, but in terms of a nation already.
So communities are not included in Mackenzie's.
The Mackenzie is decided for a different perspective. Yeah, right. Any other questions? In this slide, I didn't put Japan in here because it is well known already that Japan is somewhere here already. Okay. How many percent I told you? The those above 65. Remember? 22.5, right? Comparing to the 15 and below. How many? The 15 and below?
17.1.
Yes, 17.14. So this is 50 and above. Okay, but the Japanese, when they have the figures, is more like 65 and above. Okay, so the prospects here identified. If you look in terms of demographic dividend, okay, I mean the second demographic dividend, the forerunners would be that the policymakers in the public sphere would need to take immediate actions is Japan, okay, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, and China, and Thailand. Here. Okay. The year 2050, okay, so it's 40 years from now. Yes.
the case of Japan, according to the expectation of the, I don't know the official English translation, but Population Research Center in Tokyo,
Yes.
according to this their expectation, Japan will lose the 1/4 of the current population today by the year of 2050.
Mm-hmm.
That will be something like 90 million people only,
Mm-hmm.
according to their expectation.
That was when was the projection?
2050, by the year of 2050,
Oh, okay.
55. Right?
55. Thank you. So I'm afraid that today's class is have to adjourn early, right? No questions.
Yeah,
One question? Yes. Yes.
you said in developed countries, elder people go up to work, people age over 55 years old, but still they have knowledge and they go to work still.
Yes.
And in developing countries, people do not really work.
Mhm.
People over 65 years old.
Yeah. Right.
So then what do they do?
Yeah. They just, because you know the kind of work, the nature of work is different from the developed world and the developing world. The majority of the people, the aging people now, they are engaged in labor-intensive kind of work. So physically, they are not able to engage in the work, and they don't have that kind of knowledge to get into another kind of work which require different kind of skills and knowledge. So they have to get out of the job anyway and doing nothing because they physically unable to, their health and their physical health doesn't allow them to do, which is different from the developed world because the majority of them still have, they work in not labor intensive, right, but more skilled-based kind of work. So they can still keep on, can still work. Like the slides that I showed you earlier, right? This one, okay. This was in the developed world, okay, in the modern world, okay. Here, they still, you see, the skills are more in terms of skill-based management, communication, okay, and less in terms of the basic skills, the analytical and thinking skill like that. So this reflects, this is the nature of work that in the modern world, modern developed world already. So it's not, there is no problem for them to keep on working and working on and on to the mid-70s because this will still, the declining rate is very, this is nothing in terms of declining rate, okay? Because this can still keep on and on and on and on, okay? But if we add this up there, okay, they will be able to keep on working and working, as what John Nesbitt said in his the earlier slide that I mentioned. So that is a possibility. But it is impossible for the people in the developing world because the nature of work is different. They're tired already. Physically impossible. Yeah.
So you think it's going those very tired people to study something new.
Yes, yes. To let them. So in the case of developing countries, there must be some kind of special training that geared toward them to let them have. If this is possible for them, okay. If this is the skills that is normal, normally can be maintained. This kind of skills can be given to training for the elderly people to learn something and to enjoy. For example, this is my idea, to enjoy the tourism business, because if suppose the elderly, they know they have their cultural. They have the cultural knowledge already, okay? That's still some kind of the tacit knowledge that we say already, okay? And if they have the tools in terms of the communications, like language, which they're eager to learn, comparing to computers, they're eager to learn languages than computers. So that they can turn their tacit knowledge from the culture aspects to explicit knowledge and tell others. So that would contribute to the economy for the developing countries. That is one possibility. Yes.
When you mentioned skill,
Yes.
do you mean, or well, I'd like to know who teaches that kind of skill to this kind of people? You mean school or working place? Who teaches such kind of skill
To the people?
to the people? Yeah.
You were referring to this slide? This one, right? Yes, right. It's more. This can be both in the role of university, schools, or teachers, or in workplace. Okay. So like in the earlier slide, we are talking about the role of education to provide basic education and training. Okay. Let me see if this. I don't know if it's here. Oh, okay, this one. Okay, like the education provide basic knowledge and self-adjustment capabilities for the students. This is something that means that the university can provide the skills or the knowledge to just a certain extent. But that certain extent is important enough to provide some kind of a foundation for the students to adjust oneself to different atmosphere. Like when they get to the work, they would be able to adapt, self-adjustment, and learn. Okay, so it's not just the basic knowledge that the university or schools have to provide to the students, but some kind of other skills for the students to learn how to adjust oneself to different environments also. And once they get into the job, that is the role of the workplace to train a particular, to the one that they recruit, to have particular skill that is in need for that particular workplace. And then that would be upgraded on and on along the career path. So that's why that leads to the in terms of the other slide, in terms of internalization and socialization via the supervisor. Okay, because in workplace sometimes it's normal people that they cannot provide structured training for the newcomers or whatever. Okay, they just allow the newcomers to sit by nearby the those who are still in the workplace already, and then learn from them as mentor and mentee. This is something that a process that one can learn and get skills from the explicit knowledge that people, the mentor, are saying, and the mentee or the new workforce, the new workers learn and then get into the tacit knowledge. Any other questions? Can anyone from here so far can tell me what you have learned about demographic dividend? And what would you do for Japan? You're supposed to be the cream of the class, right? You can share in your own words.
What can I do? Or
Let's say, what do you think about demographic dividend?
for example,
What it is?
what it is. For me, it's a demographic dividend is a kind of period for all the growing labor force.
Yes.
And Japan demographic dividend is ended some decades ago.
Yeah.
I guess it was 40 years ago. And may I ask you another question? Is it possible to
Yes.
revive
Yeah.
the demographic dividend in Japan?
To revive, actually the population, the proportion of people in the workforce, I mean the working age population is still there, still okay to work, right? So it's not really over yet, but declining very fast because the rising proportion of the aging people, right? So it's still an opportunity to capitalizing on the existing proportion of the workforce now, by still have to encourage in terms of equip the workforce, the current workforce, with some kind of knowledge and skills that is needed for the 21st century. Okay. Try this one. Okay. To realize that the world is changing, and then try to encourage them to equip with certain skills or certain knowledge that they are kind of poor or lack that kind of knowledge. For example, to have some kind of this one, high technology, and to the market driven, that is one thing, and to realize that the world is changing towards the opportunities to be given by the multinational enterprise. Okay, so this is something that they and and technologists, this is something that they still be able to maximize their human capital towards this path of career, so that they would be able to be a factor for the dominant, let's say, okay, dominant social and political forces for the next decade. They can be a force in terms of the economy, in the world economy also, because let's say Japan has lots of multinational enterprises already, right? So the opportunities is still there and increasing already. So if they, the existing or the current workforce have some kind of the knowledge that, or the competencies that the EU, competences that the EU has designed for EU, Japan may adopt that also. Because both EU and Japan are in the process of depopulation, but there are still a certain proportion of the people in the working age to contribute to the economy. That is one thing. Another thing is to rely on more human capital from other parts of the world, like the United States is doing. Because Japan, the United States, Australia, the EU, sharing the same problem, but they can still share the same opportunities if they adopt the strategies that the John Naisbitt or Peter Drucker identify in terms of what would be taking place in the future times. You see what my points? Any other questions?
Just a comment to the former
To his, yeah.
question that this revival possibility. A couple of weeks ago, I think you mentioned something about this. Demographic transition is a one-way ticket. It cannot be. It's an irreversible process. In this sense.
That is, yeah. In terms of how to increase the fertility rate, it is so far not possible in any countries. But there are two options for the demographic dividend to be capitalized on. Okay, one is to increase the fertility rate, which certain countries are trying to do that already, but that takes time. But for immediate impact is to rely on a pool of human capital from elsewhere. Yeah, that is why I mentioned the case of the United States for you. Yeah, rewriting the whole immigration regimes.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I couldn't attend your lecture twice. I missed twice. So
Yeah.
I didn't know your whole lecture, but I could learn that demographic dividend is still has an impact to Japanese society.
Yeah.
I'm interested in migration,
Mm-hmm.
and before I took your lecture, I thought that in the case of Japan, the demographic dividend was a past experience, and now we have no relationship to that. But you mentioned that the other Asian countries' demographic dividend is now has a very important relationship to Japan society because and in terms of migration construction.
Yeah.
So your lecture was very surprising, and so thank you for that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, I have to thank you all a lot for you are very attentive and raise interesting and good questions. I myself, as a lecturer, also enjoy your participation, attendance to the class, and we can share. I think my lecture has provided you some kind of information. That's something that you didn't learn before, and I can see from your eyes that you have learned something from the lecture. And so, ありがとうございました。今日は終わりましょう。